A sailing family is crossing the Strait of Gibraltar. Calm water, clear sky, nothing unusual. Then the boat starts shaking. Not from waves. There are no waves. Something underneath is hitting the rudder again and again with surgical precision. Within 20 minutes, the rudder is destroyed and the boat is taking on water. The family is rescued. The orca that did this swims away calmly like it just finished a job. This isn't a one-off story. It's happened more than 700 times since 2020 in almost exactly the same way, to almost exactly the same part of the boat. And marine biologists are now seriously debating an idea that sounds insane until you look at the evidence that orcas might be teaching each other to do this on purpose. Random animal aggression doesn't usually look like this. Wild attacks are typically chaotic. Different targets, different methods, no consistency. This is the opposite. Researchers tracking these incidents found a near-identical technique used across hundreds of separate encounters. Orcas approaching from behind, targeting the rudder specifically, applying force until it breaks, then disengaging once the boat is disabled. Not the hull, not the people, the rudder, every time. When the same complex behavior shows up that many times across different individual animals, biologists stop calling it coincidence and start calling it something else, a technique. The leading explanation has a name attached to it. Researchers nicknamed the orca, believed to be the origin point White Gladys. The theory, published by a team of Spanish and Portuguese researchers, suggests Gladys experienced some kind of traumatic encounter with a boat, possibly a collision, possibly entanglement, and the rudder-breaking behavior started shortly afterward in her pod. When the same complex behavior shows up that many times across different individual animals, biologists stop calling it coincidence and start calling it something else, a technique. Now, before this turns into a revenge thriller, most marine biologists are genuinely cautious about the trauma and revenge framing, and for good reason. Orcas are also famous for something else entirely: play. They're one of the most playful large predators on the planet, known for inventing games, passing objects between pod members, and engaging in behaviors that serve no obvious survival purpose. Some researchers think rudder breaking might not be vengeance at all. It might be a game that spread because it was, to an orca, simply fun and satisfying to do. Either explanation is unsettling in its own way. One means they're capable of grudges, the other means they're capable of trends. And that second possibility is, honestly, the more interesting one. Orcas are one of only a handful of species on Earth with documented culture, meaning behaviors that aren't instinctual, that get invented by one individual and spread through social learning rather than genetics. Different orcapods around the world have entirely different hunting techniques, different vocal dialects, even different food preferences, passed down exactly the way human traditions are. Which means if rudder breaking really did start as one orca's idea, the reason it spread to hundreds of others isn't biology, it's culture. It's the closest thing in the ocean to a viral trend. Except the trend is disable human boats, and it's being taught to calves who will carry it for the rest of their decades-long lives. Here's the part that makes this genuinely different from any other predator story. Orcas have one of the most complex brains in the animal kingdom, larger relative to body size than almost any species except humans, with an unusually developed limbic system, the region tied to emotional processing and social bonding. This isn't a shark following instinct. This is an animal with the cognitive hardware to hold something resembling a memory of a bad encounter and the social structure to communicate it. Despite that raw capability, there is still no confirmed case in recorded history of a wild orca killing a human. Not one. Which makes the boat behavior even stranger. It's targeted, intelligent, and spreading, but it's consistently, deliberately, stopping short of harming people directly. And this is where it gets bigger than the Strait of Gibraltar. Similar rudder interaction behaviors have now been reported far outside the original area. Sightings off the coast of other regions showing comparable patterns, suggesting the behavior or knowledge of it may be spreading beyond the original pod's range. Some researchers are cautious about how fast this is being attributed versus actually confirmed, but the trajectory is the same direction every time someone studies it. More incidents, more locations, more boats. An apex predator with human level social learning is currently running a multi year experiment on us, and we're the ones documenting it from the deck of a sinking boat. We've spent decades studying what makes humans afraid of animals. This might be the first well documented case of the reverse process happening in real time. An animal apparently developing and spreading a specific behavioral response to us, not fear, not random aggression, something that looks uncomfortably like a strategy. So, the next time you're on a boat in open water and you feel that hull shudder for no obvious reason, it's probably nothing. Probably just current, or debris, or your imagination working overtime. But somewhere in that water, there's a species capable of remembering, teaching, and choosing. And for the first time, we're not entirely sure what it's choosing to do with us. Subscribe to the following videos will be even more interesting.